So you have the audacity to eat after killing my grandchildren? Ogechukwu screamed. You evil woman! You will go and confess to your coven that your plans failed. Doctor, please, this is a hospital. Don't cause a scene. The doctor tried to intervene. Doctor, respect yourself, she barked back. This woman is a witch. 3 pregnancies gone in 2 years. Doctor, how is my baby? Did she survive? Vera asked quietly, her voice so low it was almost a whisper. Her eyes, once full of life and hope, were now empty. Hollow pools that reflected nothing but pain. Her face looked drained, her body weak, yet she still clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, the doctor would say something different. The doctor stood beside the hospital bed, staring at her pale figure. He had seen grief in many forms over the years, but there was something different about this woman. It was the way she didn't cry, didn't scream. No visible tears, no trembling lips, just a dead stillness that made his skin crawl. He looked at her husband, Iloka, who stood near the doorway, pacing restlessly but unable to draw close. The fear in his eyes was evident. He already knew what was coming, but lacked the courage to face it. Madam, please be strong, the doctor began, his voice heavy with empathy. I'm sorry, the baby didn't make it. Silence. Vera said nothing. Her expression didn't even shift. She just lay still, staring at the ceiling as though it held all the answers. Eloka let out a loud sob and dropped to his knees. Chineke, my baby, he wailed, beating his chest. Vera, please forgive me. I didn't mean for this to happen again. But Vera didn't look at him. She turned her face slowly to the side, a small, eerie smile creeping onto her lips. Then, to everyone's shock, she began to laugh. The doctor and the 2 nurses present exchanged uneasy glances. She's laughing? One nurse whispered. Should we sedate her? The other asked nervously. No, the doctor replied quietly, watching Vera carefully. Let's wait. Vera's laughter slowed, then stopped just as suddenly as it began. Her smile lingered. Why is he crying now? She asked in a voice that chilled the room. Medicine after death, Abi. He beat me, kicked me, even while I begged him. This is the 3rd child I've lost because of him. And now he wants to cry? Madam, are you okay? The doctor asked gently, afraid that she had completely lost her mind. Vera slowly turned her head to face him. Doctor, I'm fine. Better than I've been in a long time. She sat up slightly. Biko, I'm hungry. I want vegetable soup with simo. I haven't eaten all day. Eloka's head shot up in confusion. You're hungry? Yes, I'm very hungry, she said, stretching her limbs. Go and get me what I asked for. Or should I call the nurse to help you? Eloka stood up slowly, unsure of what to do. He looked at the doctor, who simply nodded. She's stable. She can eat. Without another word, Eloka turned and left the ward, still wiping tears from his eyes. As soon as he was gone, a loud voice boomed from the corridor. Where is that witch? The door burst open and Eloka's mother, Madam Ogechukwu, stormed in like a hurricane. She was known for her sharp tongue and loud presence, and today was no different. Vera calmly continued to sip her water, barely acknowledging the woman's entrance. So you have the audacity to eat after killing my grandchildren? Ogechukwu screamed. You evil woman! You will go and confess to your coven that your plans failed. Doctor, please, this is a hospital. Don't cause a scene. The doctor tried to intervene. Doctor, respect yourself, she barked back. This woman is a witch. 3 pregnancies gone in 2 years. 3! She turned to Vera and hissed. Don't worry, I brought a real woman to give my son children. A fruitful wife. Vera finally looked up, her eyes meeting Ogachukwu's with icy calmness. Oh? You brought a new wife? She asked. Yes. Meet Abigail, Ogachukwu said, pulling forward a young woman dressed in heavy makeup and tight clothes. She will give us children that will stay. Vera studied Abigail for a moment, then asked quietly, How strong are you? Abigail scoffed. What kind of stupid question is that? Mama, what is going on here? Iloka asked as he returned with the food flask in hand. I fixed your problem, Ogachukwu said proudly. Abigail is your new wife. You don't need this dead womb anymore. Iloka's eyes widened in disbelief. Mama, are you mad? I didn't ask you to bring anyone into my marriage. Shut up, Ogachukwu barked. I suffered to raise you. I will not let this woman kill all my grandchildren. This one will give us a child, and she will stay. Vera sat up, collected her food from Iloka, and began eating slowly. Good. Let her stay. Enjoy your honeymoon. But Mama, be careful. Sometimes the fire you light can burn your own house down. Are you threatening me? Ogachukwu shouted. No, Vera said calmly, still chewing. Just giving you a friendly warning. You're mad, Abigail snapped. Vera turned to her and smiled. Let's see how long you last. Eluka looked around the room in horror, unsure of what to say or do. His wife was eating calmly. His mother had brought a new bride. The hospital staff looked frozen in confusion. One thing was clear. Vera was no longer the woman he had once married. Something in her had changed, and it was terrifying. 2 days after being discharged from the hospital, Vera returned to the house that had once been her sanctuary, but now felt like a battlefield. She wasn't returning as a beloved wife, but as the ex-wife living under the same roof as her former husband, his mother, and his new bride. Despite signing the divorce papers, Vera had no intention of leaving the house she helped build. She had poured her sweat, time, and savings into it. Letting go would mean surrendering, and she wasn't about to do that. The large black gate opened, and Vera's car slowly drove into the compound. She was sitting in the back seat beside her trusted housemaid, Adaora, the daughter of the housekeeper who had served her faithfully for years. As the car parked, the staff began to gather, their faces lighting up the moment they saw her. The gardener, the driver, the cook, the cleaner, even the gateman, all rushed to welcome her. Welcome home, Madam Vera, they chorused. She stepped out of the car and gave them a faint smile. Thank you, everyone. I missed you all. Madam, we missed you too, the cook said warmly. We're glad you're back safe. The housekeeper stepped forward, holding back tears. I thank God you came back alive. We were so worried. Don't worry, Auntie, Vera said softly, placing a hand on the woman's shoulder. I'm not going anywhere again. And don't worry, this will be the last time I leave this house because of someone else. As they exchanged greetings, Vera suddenly noticed 2 familiar figures standing at the entrance of the mansion. Ogechukwu and Abigail, both seated like queens, sipping juice from glass cups and watching the scene unfold. Abigail was dressed in one of Vera's silk house dresses and had a gold chain around her neck. One Vera recognized instantly. It was her own. Vera was about to walk past them without saying a word when Abigail's sharp voice stopped her. You're back? That's good. I was beginning to think you ran away for good, Abigail said, mockingly. Vera paused and slowly turned toward her. You're wearing my dress, she said calmly. Abigail smirked. This dress? My husband bought it for me. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's mine. Is it also your husband who gave you my gold necklace and moved my clothes into the guest room? Vera asked coldly. Look, I don't have time for this madness, Abigail snapped. Why don't you go back to your boys' quarters and leave the main house to real wives? Oh ho, did you hear that? Real wives? Ogachukwu scoffed loudly. Vera, take this your bitter face and go rest. Stop disturbing this young lady who is carrying our future. Vera walked closer and bent toward Abigail. Her voice dropped so low that only Abigail could hear. You can wear my clothes and sit on my sofa, but the day you touch what's left of my peace, you'll regret ever stepping into this house. Abigail swallowed hard, feeling a shiver run down her spine. Then, without another word, Vera turned and walked toward the guest room where her few belongings had been shoved. She stepped inside the room and stood in silence. The curtains were old, the sheets were faded, and the air smelled like dust and memories. But Vera didn't cry. She didn't complain. She simply opened the windows wide, pulled off the dusty sheets, and began to rearrange everything. She moved like a woman possessed, with strength, determination, and a quiet rage bubbling under her calm. Later that evening, Eloka returned from work and was surprised to find the gate open and all the staff excitedly whispering among themselves. He stepped into the living room and found Abigail sitting on the floor, her feet in a basin of warm water as his mother massaged her shoulders. Vera is back, Abigail said without looking at him. Eloka paused. His heartbeat increased slightly, but he pretended not to care. So, he replied, she's staying in the boys' quarters. That's what she wanted. She wants more than that, Abigail added with a smirk. She came here like a queen. Everyone rushed to greet her like she still owns this house. Even the housekeeper carried her bag like a servant, and she had the guts to threaten me. Threaten you? Eloka asked, now facing her directly. Yes, she said if I touched her piece, I'd regret it. Did she touch you? No. Then ignore her. She has no power here anymore, Eloka said, with a wave of his hand. Ogachukwu, who had been quiet, suddenly burst out. That woman is planning something. Look at how calm she is. That's how witches behave before they strike. You people better send her packing before she poisons someone. Mama, she has the right to be here, Eloka snapped. She didn't ask for half of my properties. She didn't sue me to court. She didn't take the cars or even the boutique I opened in her name. The only thing she asked was to stay here in the boys' quarters, and I agreed. So don't push her. I'm still trying to make peace, Abigail hissed. Peace? She's your ex-wife. If you don't send her away, I will. That night, as Vera sat alone in her new room, she looked through an old photo album of her pregnancies. Each child lost had a page of its own. Ultrasound pictures, baby clothes, handwritten names she had planned to give them. She touched the last page, where she had once written, Chukwuemeka, my promise keeper. She shut the album, wiped her eyes, and stood up. There was no turning back now. Her body had healed, her spirit had shifted, and her plan had just begun. It had been 1 week since Vera returned home. Each morning she woke up early, said her prayers, took a warm bath, and prepared her own breakfast with Adaora's help. The kitchen in her new boys' quarters had been fully renovated. The once neglected space now gleamed with modern appliances, fresh paint, and a new scent of lavender air freshener. It was modest, but it was hers, and it gave her peace. She no longer stepped into the main house unless she absolutely had to. Her silence was louder than 1,000 words. She smiled politely at the staff, ignored Abigail's sneers, and greeted Ogachukwu with a calm voice that was more terrifying than any insult. Everyone in the compound noticed the change. The once gentle, patient Vera now walked with quiet confidence. Her laughter was rare, her tone controlled, and her expressions unreadable. Even Eloka noticed the shift. Abigail rolled her eyes. Maybe she has finally accepted her fate. After all, you've moved on. She should too. Eloka didn't reply. He opened the door and stepped out. Just then, Vera came walking around the side of the house, holding a small tray of food for the driver who had not eaten since morning. "Good morning, Eloka," she greeted politely. Not smiling, not frowning, just calm. Eloka paused for a moment, staring at her. "Good morning," he replied stiffly, and walked away. As the car drove off, Abigail, standing in the doorway, scoffed loudly. "Hypocrite! Trying to act holy after signing divorce papers. Let's see how long you'll keep playing this saint." Vera didn't respond. She simply turned and walked back to her quarters like Abigail didn't exist. Later that day, while Vera was inside reading, Adaora came rushing in. "Madam! Madam!" she whispered in panic. "What is it, Adaora?" Vera asked, setting down her novel. "Madam Abigail locked me out of the main house and said I must not enter again. She said I'm now a house girl for the quarters and that my mother should be prepared to lose her job." Vera sighed. "She even went to the kitchen and poured away the soup I prepared for you," Adaora added, her eyes watery. "Did you tell your mother?" "My mother said I should ignore her, but Mama Ogachukwu supports everything she's doing." Vera stood up and calmly walked to her small wardrobe. She brought out her phone, dialed a number, and waited. "Hello? Yes, it's Vera. Please, I'd like 3 packs of afang soup with pounded yam and fruit juice. Delivered to my house. Yes, boys' quarters, thank you." She hung up and turned to Adaora. "Don't cry, my dear. This is the kind of hunger that ends with royalty." Adaora sniffled and managed a weak laugh. Later in the evening, Abigail and Ogachukwu sat in the sitting room, discussing how to turn Vera into a maid or force her out of the compound entirely. "That woman has no shame," Ogachukwu grumbled. "She walks around like she's still married. But I have plans. Mama, let's give her 1 more week. Once this pregnancy reaches 1 month, we'll celebrate it and invite her. She'll pack out by herself," Abigail said proudly. "Just make sure you're truly pregnant," Ogachukwu muttered under her breath. "What did you say, Mama?" "Nothing, my dear. Just make sure to stay away from stress so nothing happens to the baby." Abigail rolled her eyes and stood up. "Let me go and post a picture of the pregnancy result online. That'll show her she's no longer needed here." Meanwhile, Vera sat outside on a plastic chair under the moonlight, sipping her juice as the staff passed by, greeting her with respect and warmth. A few of them came to her for advice, some just to greet her. She treated them all kindly. That night, Eloka returned from work and saw the staff gathered in laughter outside the quarters. "Who are they with?" he asked the security guard. "Madame Vera, sir. She ordered food for everyone and told them to relax after work." Eloka blinked, surprised. He walked past the house and glanced briefly in the direction of the laughter. There was Vera, still in her wrapper, surrounded by everyone, calm, kind, glowing. And that made him uncomfortable. Something about her peace felt threatening. He turned and walked inside his house, where Abigail was waiting with cold Gary and groundnut. "Your food is served," she said. Eloka went closer to the dining table to check what she prepared. "Why didn't you serve it hot?" "I've been busy promoting our pregnancy online," she replied casually. "You should go check. The likes are pouring in." Eloka dropped his bag and stared at her. Suddenly, he missed Vera's warmth, her food, her patience, and for the first time, he wondered if divorcing her had been a mistake. That morning, while tying his tie for work, he watched her through the window from upstairs. She stood in the garden behind the boys' quarters, watering her small flower pots in a simple wrapper and t-shirt. Her hair was packed neatly in a bun, and she looked peaceful, too peaceful. It bothered him. He walked into the dining room, where Abigail sat sipping juice with one hand on her flat stomach. She noticed his sour mood immediately. "Good morning, sweetheart," she said in a sweet tone. "I made yam and egg sauce for breakfast." "I'm not hungry," Iloka replied shortly, grabbing his briefcase from the couch. Abigail's smile faltered. "Is something wrong?" He didn't respond. She stood up and followed him toward the front door. "Baby, are you still angry with Vera for returning?" "She's not my concern," he muttered. "Then what's the problem?" Iloka hesitated before answering. "She's too calm, too collected. It's like nothing affects her anymore." The following morning, the compound was quiet. The sun peeked through the curtains of the boys' quarters as Vera sat at her small dining table, sipping tea and flipping through a property magazine. It was a calm morning, but her mind was busy. She had spent the last few days observing, watching how Abigail strutted around the house in her old clothes, how Ogachukwu issued orders like she owned the property, and how Iloka barely looked her in the eye. But none of it bothered her anymore. She had learned how to use silence like a weapon. She wasn't in a hurry. Revenge didn't require noise. As she took another sip of her tea, Adaora walked in, holding a phone. "Madam Vera, it's an unknown number. They've been calling since morning." Vera raised a brow. "Answer it. Let's hear who it is." Adaora placed the phone on speaker and picked the call. "Hello? Good morning. Is this Mrs. Vera Anyanwu?" A gentle male voice said. "Yes," Vera replied, setting down her cup. "This is from Supreme Holdings Bank. We just wanted to confirm that your boutique account is still active. There was a transfer request made this morning, attempted by Mr. Iloka Anyanwu." Vera leaned back in her chair, her smile growing wider. "Oh," she said coolly. "No transfers should be made from that account without my signature. Block it immediately and notify me if it happens again." "Understood, ma'am." She ended the call and chuckled softly. "Madam, what was that about?" Adaora asked. "Iloka tried to move money from my business account," Vera said simply. "I guess he's getting desperate." That same morning, in the main house, Iloka was fuming. He had attempted to transfer some funds from the boutique account, only to receive an alert that the transaction had been blocked. He stormed into the sitting room where Abigail was scrolling through her phone. "That Vera is becoming a problem," he muttered. "What did she do now?" Abigail asked, barely looking up. "She locked me out of the boutique account." Abigail's brows lifted. "But didn't you open that business for her?" "Yes, but I made her co-signatory. I thought she wouldn't dare challenge me. Not like this." Abigail sat up. "This is why I told you to kick her out. She's still holding power over you." Ogachukwu entered the room just then, tying her headscarf. "Kick who out?" she asked, overhearing the last part. "Vera," Abigail replied sharply. "She's causing problems, Mama. She's blocking his access to money." "Good," Ogechukwu said. "Now he knows how it feels. I warned him. Once a woman starts acting too calm, be afraid." "Mama!" Iloka exclaimed in shock. "You divorced her," Ogechukwu said. "But you didn't cut her off completely. You let her stay in this house, and now she's watching you and plotting silently." Iloka rubbed his forehead, feeling the tension growing. "What do I do?" "Simple," Abigail cut in. "Let's push her until she snaps. Let's provoke her. If she reacts violently, we'll accuse her of trying to harm the baby, and then she'll be forced out." Ogechukwu clapped her hands in approval. "My daughter, you are smart." That afternoon, while Vera was tending to the small flowers outside her quarters, a loud voice rang through the compound. "Hey you!" She turned to see Abigail storming toward her. "You dare move the car parked in front of the gate without my permission?" Abigail barked. "I told the driver to move it because the delivery van needed space to reverse," Vera replied calmly. "It's not your job to give orders in this house," Abigail screamed. "You are not the madame here anymore. Do you understand me?" Vera smiled slightly. "Are you okay, Abigail? You're raising your voice in broad daylight, like someone who just drank expired Zobo." Abigail gasped. "What did you just say?" Before she could reply, Ogechukwu appeared behind her. "This woman is a disgrace," she shouted. "How dare you insult your husband's new wife? You're nothing but a bitter, barren witch." Vera's smile vanished. She stepped closer, her eyes now blazing with fury. "Say that again, Mama. Call me barren one more time." Ogechukwu raised her chin proudly. "What will you do? Stab me like you tried last time?" Just then, Iloka walked in, returning from an outing. He saw the standoff and rushed over. "What is going on here again?" he yelled. "Your ex-wife insulted us," Abigail whined. "She told me I drink expired Zobo." Iloka turned to Vera. "Why are you always creating problems? Why can't you just stay out of the way?" "Ask your wife why she came to my side of the compound," Vera snapped. "I didn't come into the main house. She walked all the way to insult me. I simply responded." Abigail stomped her foot. "She must leave this house. I won't live in fear." "Fear of what?" Vera replied, her tone suddenly soft again. "I don't fight people who dress in my old clothes and wear my slippers." Iloka opened his mouth to speak, but found no words. It was true. Abigail was dressed in one of Vera's wrappers and wore her slippers outside. The staff around tried to hide their giggles. Humiliated, Abigail turned and marched back to the house with Ogechukwu behind her. Iloka stared at Vera for a long time. "You're not the same woman I married," he said quietly. "No, I'm not," Vera replied. "You broke her." She turned and walked back to her room, closing the door behind her. That night, while eating dinner with Abigail and Mama, Iloka barely touched his food. His mind kept going back to Vera's words. "You broke her." Maybe he had. Maybe the woman he used to know, the one who used to cook for him, cry for him, and beg him to change, was gone. And in her place stood a woman with no tears left to cry and no fear left to feel. It was a quiet Sunday morning. In the boys' quarters, Vera stood before her mirror, tying her scarf gently over her neatly packed hair. She wore a simple sky blue gown and soft slippers. Beside her, Adaora was folding a wrapper and humming a church tune. "Are you sure you want to go to church today, madam?" Adaora asked. "That woman in the main house, she might say something again." Vera smiled faintly. "Let her talk. I'm not going to church to fight. I'm going to thank God for giving me peace in the midst of madness." Adaora nodded slowly. "You're right, Ma. God has truly helped you." By 9 a.m., Vera stepped out, her Bible in hand. She walked past the main house toward the gate. As usual, the house staff greeted her warmly. "Good morning, Madam Vera. You look beautiful." "Thank you," she replied softly, waving. Vera, on the other hand, quietly went to her usual seat at the back and sat down. She didn't crave attention. She only came to hear the word of God and leave with peace. But Ogechukwu, who had followed Abigail to church, had other plans. During testimony time, she nudged Abigail. "Go and give testimony about the baby," she whispered. "Mama, I'm not pregnant," Abigail whispered back, nervous. "Lie if you have to. She did not kill your baby because there is no baby to kill. But say something now before she steals people's sympathy again." With that, Ogechukwu stood and raised her hand during testimony time. When she was called forward, she began with her usual drama. "Praise the Lord!" she shouted. "Hallelujah!" the congregation responded. People of God, my name is Ogechukwu, and I'm here to thank the Lord for what He's doing in my family. Last month, my first daughter-in-law, Vera, had a miscarriage. But instead of crying, she laughed. Yes, oh, she laughed. Because God was already preparing a better child. Through my son's second wife, Abigail. Gasps filled the church. Vera, seated at the back, remained calm. She stared straight ahead and didn't move an inch. And now, Abigail is pregnant. Yes, oh, the devil came to steal, but God gave us double, Ogechukwu concluded. People clapped lightly, some out of shock, some out of pity, and others because they were too polite not to. After the testimony, the service continued. When it was time for the sermon, the pastor stepped forward and read from Isaiah 61:7. Instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion, and instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. He looked directly at the congregation. Some people here today think their strength lies in shouting testimonies, but God sees the hidden battles of those who sit quietly with a broken heart. His eyes settled on Vera briefly before he continued. Your shame may not be loud, but your restoration will be louder. Vera felt a chill run through her as tears gathered in her eyes. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen, understood. After service, many women came to hug her, whispering encouragement into her ears. You're strong. God will do it. We are praying for you. As Vera stepped into her car, Abigail watched from a distance, her chest tight with jealousy. She had hoped to embarrass Vera, yet it backfired. Everyone left the church feeling sorry for the so-called barren woman. Why is it so hard to pull this woman down? Abigail hissed to herself. Back at the house, Ogechukwu was already boiling with anger. I don't like how the pastor looked at that woman, she said bitterly. He was preaching for her. Mama, maybe we should slow down, Abigail said softly. That woman is not reacting the way I expected. Don't be foolish. She's just planning something big in silence. We must strike before she does. Meanwhile, Vera sat in her room that evening, staring at an old frame that had once held her ultrasound image. The photo was gone now, but she kept the frame anyway. She looked into the mirror beside it. I may not have a child, she whispered, but I have something more dangerous. Strength, and I'll use it well. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her lawyer. Documents for full boutique ownership ready. Come by tomorrow morning. Vera smiled. Piece by piece, she was taking her life back. Just as she reached the gate, Abigail stepped out of the main house, wearing a long white gown that dragged behind her. Her scarf was tied tightly, and she carried a handbag that shimmered in the sunlight. Oh, what a coincidence, Abigail said loudly, walking quickly to catch up with Vera. We're going to the same church? Vera turned slightly. I always go to that church. You're the newcomer. Abigail smirked. Well, the church needs fruitful women too. The comment was low, but Vera heard it. She smiled and said calmly, and God also sees the heart, not just the womb. Abigail stiffened, but said nothing more. They rode in different cars, but the moment they entered the church compound, Abigail quickly walked toward the pastor and greeted him with loud laughter and exaggerated gestures. Oh, pastor, good morning. You're looking so young today. The pastor smiled politely. He had seen many like her. By 9 a.m. the next morning, Vera stepped into the office of her lawyer, Barrister Chidi, a well-known and sharp-witted man who had handled her boutique registration years ago. She wore a fitted white blouse tucked into a high-waist black skirt. Her makeup was light, but her presence commanded attention. Heads turned as she walked into the building. Madam Vera, the receptionist greeted with a smile. Good morning, dear, Vera replied warmly. Soon, she was ushered into the lawyer's office. He stood immediately and stretched his hand across the table. Madam Vera, good to see you. You're glowing, I must say. Vera shook his hand with a small smile. Thank you, barrister. Let's talk business. Barrister Chidi chuckled and handed her a brown file. These are the full documents transferring ownership of the boutique into your name alone. As long as Iloka doesn't contest it, everything is yours. And if he does? Vera asked, raising a brow. He won't win. The boutique was registered with your details as the co-founder, and most of the funds used came from your private accounts. I have the records. He's not foolish enough to go to court with no evidence. Vera smiled, signed the final section of the document, and closed the file. Thank you. I'll make sure your payment is sent today. As she left the office, a sense of freedom washed over her. One more thing reclaimed. One more step toward total independence. Back at the house, Abigail had just finished posting another fake baby bump picture online. She adjusted a small round pillow under her gown and posed carefully, making sure her stomach looked round and noticeable. Perfect, she whispered to herself as she clicked the upload button. Hashtag fruitful wife. She laughed and congratulated herself. Suddenly, the front door opened. Iloka stepped in, looking exhausted. Welcome, my son, Ogachukwu said. Abigail quickly stood up and rubbed his shoulders. You look tired, baby. Long day? I just got back from a meeting, he replied. Any food? Abigail panicked. She had been too busy taking photos to remember food. Ah, I totally forgot to tell the cook, she lied. But don't worry, I'll make something now. Don't bother, Iloka said coldly. I'll get something from the fridge. He walked into the kitchen and opened the fridge. There was nothing. No soup, no rice, just bottled water and a half-eaten cake. He slammed the door and stormed out. Abigail, what kind of wife are you? A whole day and not a single pot of food in the house? Abigail frowned. Why are you shouting at me? Am I not pregnant? Pregnant women eat too, don't they? So what do you eat if there's no food in the house? Ogachukwu tried to calm him down. Iloka, don't shout at your wife. The baby is still very delicate. Iloka stared at his mother. Then let her start behaving like a wife. Vera may have had her flaws, but she never let me go a day without food. At the mention of Vera's name, Abigail's face twisted. So go back to her then. Iloka turned away in frustration and walked out of the house. Meanwhile, in the boys' quarters, Vera had just returned from the lawyer's office. She handed a copy of the boutique ownership papers to Adaora. Madam, is it now all yours? Adaora asked, her eyes wide. Yes, Vera replied calmly. Every corner of that shop belongs to me now. Adaora clapped excitedly. God is really fighting for you. I told you, Vera said, setting her bag down. No one takes from me and goes free. Later that evening, Vera stepped out in a beautiful brown wrapper and gold top. She had planned to visit the boutique and speak to the staff there personally. Just as she opened her car door, a loud voice called her name. Iloka! She turned to see her ex-husband jogging toward her. Yes, she replied coolly. Can we talk? I'm about to go out. Is it urgent? Iloka scratched the back of his head awkwardly. It's about the boutique. What about it? I tried to move some funds last week, and it didn't go through. Vera smiled. Because you have no rights there anymore. Iloka blinked in shock. What do you mean? I went to my lawyer this morning. The boutique is now fully mine. I funded it, built it, and ran it. The documents say so. You didn't tell me. You didn't tell me either when you brought another woman into our home the same day I lost our baby, she replied sharply. Iloka looked down, guilt washing over him. Vera stepped closer. I'm not bitter, Iloka. I'm just done being used. You and your mother can keep the mansion. I'll keep the life I'm building outside these walls. She entered her car and drove off. Iloka stood there, stunned. That day, something inside him broke. He realized Vera was truly gone, not just in name, but in heart. At that same moment, back in the house, Abigail paced the sitting room. Mama, she's acting too bold, she complained. Ogechukwu was quiet. Mama, are you listening to me? I am, Ogechukwu replied. But I'm beginning to think maybe we made a mistake. Abigail froze. What do you mean? That girl we thought we broke, she's becoming stronger by the day. And I fear she might come for all of us in a way we never expect. Abigail stared at her, unsure of what to say. And just like that, for the first time since Vera returned home, the woman in the main house, the self-proclaimed madam, felt fear. It had been 3 weeks since Vera returned home, and 3 weeks since she signed the divorce papers that changed everything. By now, her boutique was thriving more than ever. Her loyal customers, who had heard rumors about her miscarriage and betrayal, came out in full support. Sales increased, and Vera poured all her energy into rebranding. Every morning, she left the house dressed smartly, skirts, suits, heels, and returned late in the evening, looking fresher than when she left. She was no longer the woman who cried quietly in the kitchen or begged for her husband's affection. She had become a woman with a purpose. That morning, she stepped out in a burnt orange gown with a black belt that hugged her waist perfectly. Her heels clicked softly on the tiled floor as she passed by the front veranda of the main house. Abigail was there, watering the flowers and watching closely. Good morning, Vera greeted with a calm smile. Abigail forced a smile. Going out again? Yes, Vera replied, adjusting her handbag. I have a meeting. Abigail folded her arms. You've been dressing like you're 20 lately. Don't forget you're still someone's ex-wife. Vera chuckled softly and said, And you're someone's second wife. We all have titles. Before Abigail could respond, Vera walked past her and stepped into her car. Inside the house, Ogechukwu watched everything from the window. Mama, did you see that? Abigail hissed as she stepped in. This lady is no longer afraid of anything. Ogechukwu rubbed her chest. Abigail, I don't know what that girl is planning, and I'm not comfortable anymore. But Mama, we have the upper hand. We're the ones in the main house. She's in the boys' quarters. And yet, she's the one with the power, Ogechukwu said quietly. She still owns the boutique, drives the most expensive car in this compound, and commands the respect of every staff member. Are you saying we should beg her? Abigail asked in disbelief. Ogechukwu gave her a hard look. I'm saying we should be careful. If Vera decides to fight us, we will not win. Not with charm, not with lies, not even with this fake pregnancy. Abigail's mouth dropped open. Mama! Oh, please don't act shocked. You think I don't know? You're still flat like a plank, and yet you're months pregnant? Who are you deceiving? Abigail covered her stomach with both hands, furious and embarrassed. Mama, I'm trying. At least I'm doing something. You should support me instead of attacking me. Then act wisely, because that girl doesn't shout, but her silence is dangerous. Meanwhile, at the boutique, Vera was in her office reviewing new clothing samples when her phone buzzed. Christian. Christian was Vera's old friend. She stared at the name for a few seconds before answering. Hello? Hi, Vera, came his deep voice. I've been calling. You okay? I'm fine, just busy. Christian hesitated before continuing. Can we meet up for lunch? I just want to see you. Vera's lips curled into a small smile. Christian, we've talked about this. I don't want anything serious right now. I know, but I just want to talk to you, please. She looked around her office, then said softly, All right, I'll see you by 2 p.m. By 2:05 p.m., Vera sat across from Christian at a classy outdoor restaurant. The breeze blew gently, and the soft jazz music played in the background. You look different, Christian said, sipping his juice. I feel different, Vera replied. More confident? More free, he smiled. I'm proud of you. You know, a lot of women wouldn't survive what you went through. She stirred her drink slowly. I didn't survive. I just transformed. Christian leaned forward. Can I ask something? Go ahead. Do you ever miss him? Vera's eyes darkened. Iloka? She paused. No. I miss the woman I used to be when I loved him. Christian nodded slowly. I understand. They talked a bit more, and just as they were about to leave, a familiar voice rang out behind them. So, this is where you hide when you leave the house dressed like that. Vera turned sharply to see Iloka standing by the gate of the restaurant, glaring at her. His eyes shifted to Christian and narrowed. And who's this? He asked coldly. Vera stood calmly. None of your business. I'm still your husband. You're my ex-husband. You made that choice, remember? Iloka looked at Christian with disdain. Are you sleeping with her? Christian stood up slowly, towering over Iloka. You need to leave now. You don't tell me what to do. Christian gave him a firm stare. I'm only saying it once. Leave, or I'll throw you out. Iloka scoffed and walked off, but not without spitting at the ground near their table. Vera sighed and sat down again. I'm sorry about that, she said. Christian shrugged. He's insecure. You threaten him. I don't want to threaten him, she whispered. I just want to be free. Later that night, when Vera returned home, Adaora rushed to her with worry. Madam, something happened while you were out. What is it? Abigail collapsed in the kitchen. Olga rushed her to the hospital. Vera's brows lifted. Collapsed? Yes, but some of the staff said it was fake. They think she did it to make Olga feel guilty for shouting at her earlier. Vera didn't respond. Instead, she entered her room quietly and locked the door. That night, she slept peacefully, because for once, the chaos was no longer inside her. It was almost midnight when Iloka returned from the hospital. He looked tired, worn out, and unusually quiet. His shirt was stained from where Abigail had leaned on him, pretending to be in pain. Her sudden collapse in the kitchen had thrown the entire house into panic. The hospital staff had run all the necessary tests. She's fine, the doctor had said. She just needs to eat more. There's no pregnancy here, not even a hormonal sign of one. Iloka had stood there, stunned. What do you mean, doctor? She's 5 months pregnant. The doctor had raised a brow. She's not even 1 day pregnant. He had said it gently, but the truth hit Iloka like a slap. Now, back home, he entered the living room and found Ogachukwu pacing. How's Abigail? She asked quickly. Iloka didn't reply at once. He sat down, removed his shoes slowly, and placed them beside the couch. Mama, he began, his voice low. She's not pregnant. Ogachukwu froze. What? The doctor said there's nothing there. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then, Ogachukwu hissed and slapped her palm against her thigh. Tufiakwa! That girl has disgraced us! I trusted her, Iloka said, his voice shaky. I thought she was the solution after Vera's miscarriages. I thought she was the fresh start. You thought wrong, came a calm voice from the corridor. They both turned. Vera stood at the entrance, wearing a long satin robe. She had heard everything. Vera, what are you doing here? Iloka asked, rising to his feet. I came to drink water, she replied, walking into the kitchen. Didn't know I'd walk in on a confession. Ogachukwu tried to speak. Listen, Vera, Save it, Mama, Vera said without turning back. You both gave me so much pain. I cried in this same house for children I never got to hold, while you mocked me and called me names. Ogachukwu looked away. Vera returned with a glass of water and faced them. And now the fruitful wife is a fraud. How fitting. Eloka, she continued. I may be living in your compound, but don't mistake silence for weakness. The day I choose to speak, this house will crumble. She walked past them and returned to her quarters, her words hanging in the air like fire. The next morning, Abigail returned from the hospital with swollen eyes and a bruised ego. She wore a big hoodie and dark glasses to hide her shame, but the entire staff already knew the truth. As she stepped into the compound, even the gardener didn't greet her. The cook pretended not to see her. The driver looked away. She stormed into the main house and found Ogachukwu waiting. You lied to me, Mama hissed. Do you know the disgrace you've brought to this family? Mama, I'm sorry, Abigail wailed. I didn't mean to lie. I just wanted to win your son's heart. I thought maybe if I got pregnant, he'd love me more. And so you faked it? You made all of us fools? Ogachukwu shouted. Abigail dropped to her knees. Please, Mama, help me beg him. I still want to stay. I'll get pregnant soon. For real this time. Eloka walked in right then and heard her last statement. You will do no such thing, he said coldly. You're leaving this house, Abigail. What? No, Abigail cried, crawling to him. Please, baby, I'll change. I'll cook, I'll clean, I'll do everything. I don't want anything from you, Eloka snapped. You came here and destroyed everything I had left. You're a liar. Mama, please talk to him, Abigail begged. Ogachukwu looked away, arms folded. Don't beg me. I warned you not to take lies too far. As Eloka turned to leave, Vera passed by the entrance again. She didn't say a word, but her silence screamed. Abigail looked up at her with hatred. You planned this. You never left. You were waiting for me to fall. Vera paused and gave her one long, piercing look. Then she smiled. No, Abigail. You were always falling. You just didn't know the floor was that close. She walked away. Abigail let out a wail and began hitting the floor with her fists. But Eloka didn't turn back, not even once. That evening, Adaora brought food to Vera's room. Madam, the whole house is like a graveyard. No noise, no music. Everyone is afraid. Vera smiled faintly. Good. Let them be afraid. That's the only thing they understand. Adaora sat down. Madam, do you think Oga is truly done with Abigail? He may forgive her, Vera said, but he'll never trust her again. And without trust, that marriage is finished. Later that night, Vera stood in front of the mirror, brushing her hair. She had just finished her bath, and her skin glowed under the warm light. She wasn't smiling, but she wasn't sad either. She was healing, piece by piece. Suddenly, her phone rang. Christian, she answered. Yes? Would it be wrong if I told you I missed your voice? He said gently. Vera smiled, a small one. You're still trying? Always, Christian replied. And this time, I'll be patient. She didn't reply, but her silence didn't feel like rejection anymore. It felt like possibility. I don't know, but it came with a card. He barely spoke to her. He spent most of his time at work, or in silence. One afternoon, Abigail attempted to seduce him. She wore one of her most revealing outfits and lay on the couch, pretending to have a fever. Eloka walked in, took one glance, and said coldly, Abigail, cover your body. You're embarrassing yourself. She sat up quickly. So after everything I've done, you now act like I'm invisible? Because that's what you are, he snapped. You lied to me. You used my mother. and you made a mockery of my pain. I can't forgive that." "What about Vera?" Abigail screamed. "You still love her, don't you?" Iloka's eyes narrowed. "If I do, then that's none of your business. You're not my wife anymore." Her hands trembled. "But Mama said—" "Even Mama is tired of you," Iloka said flatly. True to his words, Ogechukwu had stopped defending Abigail. Ever since the hospital visit that exposed her lie, she had kept to herself. She barely came out of her room. One evening, as Abigail passed by, Ogechukwu called her in. "Sit down," the older woman said, her voice weak. Abigail sat quietly, expecting another insult, but Ogechukwu only sighed. "You remind me of myself." Abigail blinked. "Me?" "Yes. When I married Iloka's father, I lied about everything. My background, my age, even my pregnancies, and I paid for it dearly. That's why I held on so tightly to my son, because I had nothing else." She looked at Abigail with heavy eyes. "But I won't support evil anymore. You need to go, Abigail. You've done enough." Abigail burst into tears. "Mama, where will I go? My people will laugh at me." "Then start over, like Vera did. But don't stay here and rot." Vera woke up that morning to the sound of birds chirping by her window. The sunlight bathed her modest room in a warm glow. She rose from bed with calm determination, feeling stronger than ever. It was her 31st birthday. No cakes, no surprise parties, no loud music, just peace. She went about her usual routine, brushed her teeth, did her morning stretches, then sat quietly to say a prayer. "Thank you, God, for another year. Thank you for taking away what I thought I couldn't live without, and for giving me back myself." She had no plans to celebrate, but Christian, who remembered the date from one of their casual chats, had a different idea. At exactly 10 a.m., Vera received a knock on her door. When she opened it, Adaora stood there, smiling. "Madame, someone sent you a package. It's from the front gate." Vera raised a brow. "From who?" "I don't know, but it came with a card. Curious." Vera took the box and opened it slowly. Inside was a pair of elegant black heels, a handwritten card, and a beautiful red gown folded neatly. The note read, "Happy birthday to a woman who didn't just survive, but transformed. Wear this and meet me for dinner. No pressure, just conversation and good food. Christian?" Vera smiled. She didn't know why, but she felt herself soften. Christian was consistent, kind, and had never tried to control or belittle her. She hadn't said yes to his advances, but he still stayed respectful. "Adaora, what do you think?" Vera asked playfully. Adaora grinned. "Madame, I beg wear it and go. It's your birthday. Enjoy small." Meanwhile, in the main house, things were falling apart. Abigail had refused to leave the house, even after Iloka had told her he was done. She kept sneaking into the kitchen, stealing food, and trying to start conversations like nothing had happened. But Iloka wasn't interested. That evening, Vera wore the red gown Christian sent. It hugged her figure modestly, and the heels gave her posture a royal lift. She applied light makeup and wore her natural hair in a sleek bun. As she stepped outside, even the house staff stared in admiration. "Madam, you look like a queen," the gatekeeper whispered. She smiled. "I am." Christian was already waiting in his car outside the gate. He stepped out the moment he saw her and opened the door like a gentleman. "You look amazing," he said. "Thank you," she replied simply. He took her to a quiet rooftop restaurant in the city. No noise, no crowd, just candles, soft music, and the cool evening breeze. As they sat down, Christian smiled at her. "So, how do you feel?" "Peaceful," Vera said. "That's good. You deserve peace." They talked about everything: life, pain, goals, and healing. Christian listened more than he spoke. He didn't try to fix her. He just sat there, and gave her space. At one point, Vera looked him in the eye and said softly, "Thank you for not rushing me." He leaned forward. "Take all the time you need. I'm not here to replace anyone. I just want to know you." Vera nodded slowly. "We'll see where life takes us." By 10 p.m., he dropped her off at the gate and walked her to her door. "I'll call you tomorrow?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "You can." She stepped inside. Meanwhile, Eloka stood behind the curtain in the main house, watching through the window. He had seen Christian drop her off. He had seen her smile. And for the first time since the divorce, he felt true fear. He had thought Vera would remain stuck, broken, and attached. But she had slipped through his fingers. He turned away, his heart heavy. Vera was gone, and she wasn't coming back. It had been a week since Vera's quiet but unforgettable birthday dinner with Christian. She hadn't said much about it to anyone, not even to Adaora, but her silence said everything. She was smiling more, lighter, freer. Christian, on his part, didn't overwhelm her. He called once a day, never pushed, never begged, just checked on her, asked about her day, and hung up with a cheerful, "Talk to you tomorrow." Vera appreciated it. For once in her life, she was being seen, not as a wife, not as a mother, not as someone's daughter-in-law, but as a woman with her own voice. That morning, as she walked into the boutique, she noticed something different. Her staff stood straighter. The space seemed brighter. Everything was flowing again. "Madam, good morning," her manager greeted. "A new distributor just reached out. They want to supply directly from Italy. No middlemen. They heard of how fast we sell out." Vera smiled. "Send me the details. We'll review their offer this evening." At 3 p.m., her phone rang. Ogechukwu. Vera stared at the screen for a long time before answering. "Hello? Vera? It's me," came the weak voice on the other end. "I know. Is everything all right?" There was a long pause. "Please, I want to see you," Ogechukwu said softly. "I know I don't deserve your time, but I have something to say." Vera hesitated, then sighed. "Fine, I'll be home by 6 p.m. When she got home later that evening, Vera didn't go straight to her quarters. She entered the main house, walked into the sitting room, and found Ogechukwu seated alone. The older woman looked smaller. Her hair was untied. Her wrapper was loose, and her eyes had lost their usual fire. "You wanted to see me?" Vera asked calmly. Ogechukwu looked up slowly. "Yes, please sit." Vera remained standing. "I'm sorry," Ogechukwu began. Her voice trembled. "For everything. For calling you names. For blaming you. For siding with Abigail. For making you feel like you were not enough." Vera said nothing. "I was a foolish woman," Ogechukwu continued. "I wanted grandchildren so badly that I became a monster. I treated you like an enemy, even when you never raised your voice at me once." Still, Vera said nothing. "I came here today, not to beg for your forgiveness, but to warn you." Now Vera blinked. "Warn me?" "Yes," Ogechukwu said, nodding. "My son, Eloka, he's spiraling. He's losing it." Vera folded her arms. "That's not my concern anymore." "I know," Mama replied. "But you still live here, and I know him. When a man like Eloka feels like he's losing control, he becomes dangerous, especially when another man steps into the picture." Vera's eyes narrowed. "Is that a threat?" "No," Ogechukwu said quickly. "It's a confession, a warning, a final plea." There was silence between them. Then Vera said, "I'm leaving the compound by the end of the month. I've bought a house. It's being furnished now. I stayed here long enough to prove a point. To myself, not to any of you." Ogechukwu's eyes welled with tears. "I understand." Vera looked at her for a moment, then said softly, "You were a wicked woman to me, but I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I do. She turned to leave. Vera, Mama called. Vera stopped, but didn't turn. Thank you for being better than I ever was. Vera didn't reply. She simply walked away. That night, Eloka sat in his car outside Vera's quarters. He had parked where the CCTV camera couldn't catch him. He watched her through the window, saw her laughing lightly while on a call, her silhouette bathed in soft light. She was glowing, beautiful, at peace, and it drove him mad. Who is she laughing with? That Christian guy again? Jealousy burned through him like wildfire. He thought divorcing her would break her spirit, that she would crawl back, that she would beg. But now he was the one sinking. Abigail was gone. His mother had turned quiet. His home felt empty. Vera was still there, but far beyond his reach. In a fit of impulse, he grabbed his phone and called her. Hello? Vera's voice came through. Come outside, Eloka barked. I need to talk to you. I'm busy, she replied, then ended the call. Rage filled him. He stormed out of the car and began marching toward her quarters. Just as he reached the door, it opened. Vera stood there in a long robe, her expression unreadable. What do you want? I miss you, he said, panting. I need you back. I made a mistake. You miss controlling me, Vera said quietly. Not loving me. I still love you, Vera. You don't, she cut in. You love the version of me that kept quiet when you shouted. The one who served your food while bleeding. The one who buried her babies and still rubbed your feet. She stepped closer. But that woman is dead. And if you ever try to raise your voice or hand at me again, just know I won't be the one going to the hospital. Aloka's face darkened. Is it that Christian guy? You're sleeping with him, aren't you? You're not entitled to that answer, she said. We're divorced. He raised his hand instinctively, but stopped halfway when he met her glare. Try it, Vera said slowly, and I promise, the next time you see daylight, it'll be through a prison window.